What's up, people? Welcome to your one and only one-stop shop for the biggest wrestling stories of the week. This is Wrestling Roundup Weekly. My name is Mex, aka WrestleManiac UK, and I'm alongside my host Ignacio. And on today's show, we are going to be talking about Brock Lesnar, that return at SummerSlam, and what the details of his contract are. We're also going to talk about that NXT logo that has been released in the last couple of days, our initial thoughts of it, where we think the NXT new direction is heading. And as well, CM Punk, did he just confirm in Dynamite that we are getting that Daniel Bryan return that has kind of been promised for the last couple of months or so? And last but not least, this is a show of new beginnings. Braun Strowman, Buddy Matthews, or Buddy Murphy as he was previously known, set to debut on Impact, apparently. We're going to go through this all today on the show. Please remember to smash the like button, subscribe to Wrestling Republic on YouTube as well. Ignacio, how are you doing there?
Pretty good, pretty good. A lot of big things happening this week, and had a great Saturday yesterday. Went to something called the Autograph Show of Texas, where I met a
Okay,
lot of our wrestling legends: Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Ric Flair,
nice.
Lex Luger. So it was a very very great event. So very good weekend so far. So looking forward to today's show. Definitely have a lot to say about what's going on.
As you said, autograph show, is it literally kind of like signings and stuff, or was it like a spoken
Yeah,
thing? Or
yeah. So they have it every year here in the Houston area, where I'm from in Pasadena. Of course, they didn't have it last year. Um, they have athletes and professional. Yesterday was all the wrestlers, so it was
yeah,
everybody I mentioned plus Ron Simmons was here,
okay,
Kelly, Carlito, Eric Bischoff was there,
quite a few
and
names.
yeah, yeah, it's a big name. It's a big deal. The year prior to that, for at the 2020 Royal Rumble, Fighterman, which is the name of the company that has the shows. They had a big one. I didn't get to go to that one, but they had Fiend, they had Becky Lynch, they had a Charlotte. So it's a big ordeal that they have every year. So it was a great event. Met the 16th time, the greatest of all time, Ric Flair, which is something I always want to do. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, the pioneers of the NWO. Who doesn't want to meet them?
Mm.
So it was a lot of fun. It was a great show. Got some great autographs. So
I was just about to ask, are you an autograph kind of guy? Are you collecting their autographs?
yeah, yeah. So usually I got a belt which is kind of like a replica, the big gold belt, but it's
Yeah.
smooth. So I have him sign the face of the
Okay.
belt. So I've gotten like 5 or 6 signatures so far. So yesterday I got Rick's on a separate plate. Got some Funko Pops. I got Kevin Nash to sign one. I got Diesel. He signed one. Diesel signed one. Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, got Lex Luger to sign one. So I'm an autograph guy, and I still recently got into belt collecting as well.
I'm due to get into belt collecting. I'm on the verge of buying a house, so I
Oof.
need to save every little money. But once that's done, I'm in
It's
100%.
addicting, man. It's addicting. Be careful.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. But yeah, the kind of theme of today's show, today's wrestling roundup weekly, is new beginnings. There's kind of a lot of new things happening, whether that's people returning, people debuting. Um, and we're going to start with Lesnar's contract situation. Now, we all know Lesnar returned to SummerSlam. He returned to WWE last week at SummerSlam. And since then, we maybe thought, okay, this is the crown jewel match against Roman Reigns. Didn't see him on SmackDown this past week. It came out just before SmackDown that Lesnar coming back was very last minute, like very, very last minute. And his contract, apparently, it's been reported his contract looks like it's going to be about a year and a half, so maybe about 18-month contract, where he's scheduled to have about 8 matches in that time. So just on initial thoughts of hearing that, the 18-month contract, eight matches, what are your thoughts? I mean, we know Brock is used to signing kind of these short-termish
Yeah.
deals, but what's your thoughts on this particular run and what it could look like?
Well, on the initial report, just it alone, which you just mentioned, a year and a half, that's 8 matches. So it's obviously going to take us through the rest of this year, probably maybe the Saudi show, maybe Survivor Series, and then maybe into Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and then on to probably the following WrestleMania, which will be in the Hollywood WrestleMania, correct?
Yeah,
39.
yeah.
So the contract probably extends until then,
Yeah.
which is 8 matches, and I'm pretty sure he'll do a show in between here and there. They'll renegotiate maybe for a Madison Square Garden show, house show, or something in between. But what I don't understand is why does this still surprise people? They still talk about, well, Brock's just part-time, and if they give him the title, then he's not going to be on every show. When he's been doing this for almost 10 years already, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, Brock Lesnar, IWGP Heavyweight Champion, NCCA Collegiate Champion, UFC Heavyweight Champion, WWE Champion, so forth. He's a legit shooter. He's a legit fighter. He's always brought credibility to the WWE, and he'll continue to do so. So I don't understand why I see people online that they expect Brock to work a full-time schedule and be on the road. He hasn't liked being on the road since his first WWE run. That's why he signs short-term limited contracts. Now, individuals like Chael Sonnen, who goes on his channel or podcast, and let me tell you why this guy's a fucking moron. He goes on and he says the same thing. I don't understand why somebody like John Cena, who also works part-time now, by the way, comes in, always been loyal to the company, comes in, does his work, does his job, loses, puts the other guy over, whatever, goes home.
Yeah.
And Brock comes in, right? Brock doesn't care about fans, all right? He's all about the money. He's a businessman, though, but he's always done business. He's always done at the end. He's always done the right thing. Now, in between then since when his comeback and now, which is almost 10 years, like I said, he's said stuff here and there. I don't want to work with this guy. I'll work with that guy, what have you. For example, I think the recent one maybe was Riddle, which he shouldn't work with Riddle because Riddle's a fucking goof, right? He's a legit shooter too, but he's a goof. I think another one that came out was this Cesaro. I love Cesaro. I'll never work with Brock Lesnar. Cesaro would
Cesaro said that.
I read it somewhere. The Cesaro's like, I'd rather work with a full-timer. Cesaro would dream at a main event with Brock Lesnar. All right. He's not going to turn that down. So, yeah, like I said, Brock, a legit shooter. He's always done business. From what I understand or I've heard or I've never read anything where he's like held Vince McMahon up. He sells like a motherfucker when he wrestles, when they tell him to behave and do so and follow orders, he does. He's a businessman. He does business. He sold one match I saw with the Big Show at a Royal Rumble. He sold his ass off for Big Show. He sold his ass off for Drew McIntyre. People get pissed off when he doesn't put over or sell for guys like Kofi Kingston. And when he came back to the debut, I think it was the debut of SmackDown, right, on Fox, where he drilled Kofi Kingston in 15 seconds or something because he's supposed to, because Kofi Kingston's 5'10" at 140 pounds. Yeah. Or when he annihilated Ricochet at the Saudi show because he's supposed to, right? So why are people surprised if, Brock Lesnar is booked this way or this is the way he does business? There's nothing wrong with it. He's always been a professional. He's always done what he's supposed to do. And he's legitimate. He brings legitimacy to the WWE. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see anything wrong with the way he's booked. Number one, and number two, his contract, the way he outlines them.
Yeah, like you, I don't feel like this is an issue, especially like you're saying. After 10 years of us seeing this, how can you still be offended? This is his gig. This is what he does. Yeah. He signs a short-term deal. He comes in. He does what he needs to do. He does the little cycle maybe of, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. Then he goes off. And to be fair, it's kind of what I like it because there are very few stars left in pro wrestling today. If Brock Lesnar was someone that was around all the time, we don't get that pop at the end of SummerSlam because we'll be too used to seeing him. We wouldn't appreciate it. And like you said, it's the legitimacy of someone that can legitimately beat up someone because he's MMA trained and all of that kind of stuff, has been in the octagon and stuff. And it's like, oh my god, he's just come back out of nowhere, he's chasing this guy down. Yeah, you can't be annoyed by it. And to be fair, he is one of the better part-timers we have within this industry, sort of thing. um
Absolutely.
he comes back, and you can literally think this guy can win the title tonight.
Yeah.
And he'll carry it for a certain period if that's the case. And yeah, it is frustrating sometimes when we're trying to tell stories, get people over, and he's not on TV to tell the story alongside with them. That is the only time I might find Brock Lesnar somewhat frustrating. But at the same time, I've been acclimatized to know he's not gonna be on TV. So
Yeah.
again, for me to be angry 10 years later that that's still the case is silly on my part, because I know his gig, I know how it works. So yeah, I'm happy with this deal. Like you said, this is probably take him through till Hollywood WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
All the big shows will be covered. I'm very interested to see. I assume it'll be the Saudi show we see him next against Roman, and if Roman beats him, where does he go from there? You mentioned some potential matches like Riddle, for instance. I think Raw could do with him. Bobby Lashley would be a really good match. I'd like to see that. I've wanted to see that for a long time. Riddle would be interesting because I think Riddle would go if you remember back to those Survivor Series matches, Brock Lesnar versus AJ, Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan. I think Riddle match would go in a similar fashion. Like Brock will dominate, Riddle will then get his stuff in. It'll look like, oh my god, Riddle's gonna win, and then Brock wins eventually. And I'll be completely fine with that because, like you said, that's what should happen. But yeah, I think it's going to be a guessing game for the fans over the next however so long to kind of guess what his road is going to look like over the 18 months. Who's he going to take on? Because losing to Roman it's going to be something, and he's going to have to get some wins. After that, he can't lose to everybody to put everybody over. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think with Roman, I think the probably first match there'll be some shenanigans or something, and
Maybe,
I don't think it'll be a schmoz, but I think Roman will probably get a win over him with some shenanigans, like I said, and then going into Survivor Series or maybe Royal Rumble, maybe Brock might even take the title off him. Who knows? And then switch back to Roman, which
I don't know if I want to
be
see that,
necessarily
but
a bad thing or a bad thing
no,
or a good
I
thing,
agree.
but I mean, like I said, he's legit. You said it too. Hey, he's legit. He can take the belt off Roman anytime. If they booked him on a SmackDown, booked them together on a SmackDown, I mean, he could take the belt off him then. So that's a good thing about booking Brock. But going forward from Roman, yeah, he's gonna keep his legitimate status. He's gonna have to pick up some wins. Put him against Riddle. Let's take Riddle's character out of it, because he's a legit shooter also. So Riddle has good matches. Riddle has good matches against AJ Styles for the past couple of weeks. He's had legitimate good matches with a lot of guys in NXT and Raw. So yeah, Bobby Lashley. I've been wanting to see him against Bobby Lashley. A lot of people have been wanting to see that match for a long time. So maybe they switch him over to Raw during the draft or whatever, and he has his time with Bobby Lashley. But one thing's for certain is you're never going to see Brock Lesnar out of the top, right? So people just gotta get over it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Whether even if he's not fighting for the title, like obviously some years back, if we will remember back to Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg, there was no title involved. That's when Goldberg squashed him, basically. But then obviously they came around, they told that story. Eventually Goldberg became champion and Lesnar took the title off him. Just little stuff like that. It's enjoyable. You don't need to be overly invested because both guys are part-time. It's just meant to be a big marquee match sort of thing. Yeah, it's like you said at the top of this, man. Like, we know his gig. Like, for you to be annoyed is, come on.
You just said it right now. When he faced Goldberg at that Survivor Series, he lost in 30 seconds or something?
Something crazy like that.
People can't say that he doesn't do business. He does business. I mean, that was a shocking. For whatever you think about Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, that was a shocking moment. Nobody expected that. So there you go.
But at the same time, we love that in our wrestling. We do need the shocks. We do need the surprises. And I've even become somewhat of a fan of that Lesnar Goldberg styled. All right, we're not going to go for long. This is going to be 3, 4, 5 minutes of complete chaos, and the match is going to end, and whoever's going to win. I've actually become, a fan of that sort of thing. I don't mind it now.
If it's booked well, it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's good.
I think it's good to have Lesnar back, and with everything going on, in terms of Meltzer reported that it was very, very late in the day. I guess this is pretty much a response to CM Punk the night before. What do you think? I think it's fair to say that, no?
Yeah, well, I think we talked about it a little bit last week. It probably is, but I mean that's not a bad thing. I mean it goes back to things need to change in WWE, so they're going to respond to what's going on in AEW. And Vince McMahon can say whatever he wants as far as not seeing AEW as a legitimate threat, but at one point At one point they said WCW wasn't a legitimate threat, and then we got the Monday Night Wars. So I think we're not too far away from the brink of that kind of movement happening with all the changes that are happening and that we're going to discuss today, especially. I think we're on the brink of something big happening in wrestling with CM Punk and Brock Lesnar coming back and Becky Lynch. Say what you want, and we've already expressed some of our opinions on that. But so we're on the brink of something big happening in wrestling with everything going on.
Yeah, you're completely right, man. And then obviously Daniel Bryan, which we're gonna get into shortly. I think with Daniel Bryan, especially if you stick him on a Friday night AEW Rampage right after SmackDown, where the SmackDown fans will be very used to seeing Daniel Bryan, and they all turn in to see Rampage to see where Daniel Bryan is now. These are all part of the little things that can, as they say, move the needle, shift in power, all of those kind of things. So yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to say on this Lesnar stuff is that obviously we've heard as well that Fox are quite annoyed that they're not annoyed they had to resort to Lesnar, but they're annoyed that WWE didn't go after Punk. Obviously, Fox have a good relationship with Punk on the WWE backstage side of things, and they thought that WWE should have put out an offer for Punk. And I'm just thinking, well, with everything we've heard Punk say since he's come back, I can't go back to the place that made me sick and all of that kind of stuff. Surely Fox should understand WWE would have surely had no chance re-signing CM Punk unless WWE were going to give him like all the money in the whole company or something like that. Do you really see Fox's? Well, they probably offered him something maybe a while ago, but I can't imagine recently they would have offered him something. Do you think Fox have a leg to stand on with this argument here?
No, because CM Punk made his decision a long time ago that he wasn't going to go back to WWE, and I think WWE at some point or another, we couldn't say when, offered him a ridiculous amount of money and probably more money than AEW is paying him at one point. I'm sure of it. But it's like, dang, there comes a point, and there's a lot of people out there, viewers or whatever, that they can relate. Sometimes it doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter. Sometimes you work somewhere and just shit, no matter how much they're going to pay me here, I'm just not happy here. I've been there in my professional life, and a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And Punk's like, dang, they can pay me, $5 million a year, give me so many shares in the company, whatever. And it's just because the creative's not going to be in his hands, right? It's just he wasn't going to be happy there. So I think Fox doesn't have a leg to stand on because they had no chance of signing him.
Yeah. Well, I think they're happy, with Becky on the show and Brock on the show. I think they were reporting they done close to 3 million viewers on Friday night. And obviously now USA are thinking, you guys are stacking that show. What about us? So, well, I mean, we'll soon see how that all turns out. But kind of switching gears now, we've obviously been talking about CM Punk a lot and this shift in power. So CM Punk made his Dynamite debut, if you like, during this week's episode, and he was cutting a promo with Tony Schiavone when I can't remember what was said, but the crowd broke out into yes chants, and CM Punk basically had to speak over the crowd on the mic, and he said, "Look, that's not my shtick. in reference to this the yes chance. But the guy that does that, you guys just be patient. He said something along those lines, which has obviously sent the internet into a frenzy. Nothing we didn't know. It's been kind of
Yeah.
obvious and reported that Daniel Bryan was going to have a deal with AEW, going to join them very, very soon, probably in September at some time. But now CM Punk has all but confirmed it. Very much the kind of stuff that AEW were doing before CM Punk turned up. It's not a secret. We can talk about it, but no one's coming out obviously and saying Daniel Bryan is with AEW. CM Punk is with AEW. So he's given the hint, the strongest hint to date, if you like. What was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, we're watching CM Punk. Well, I'll just throw this out there. Watching CM Punk do another promo class. I hope everybody was watching. And if they haven't, I hope they go back and watch. But in the middle of his promo class, yeah, he referenced the Daniel Bryan deal, and I know things have come out there as far as now they're saying that Daniel Bryan might debut at
All Out.
All Out. And I said I didn't say it on the show, but I've said it to other people. I was like, of course they would debut Daniel Bryan at All Out because they want to fill the stadium in New York on the 22nd, and that's where I think Bryan's not going to debut. He'll debut at All Out, but he'll have his first big match at the stadium.
Yeah.
Because if it's not sold out already, they want it to get it to that point, right? So I think Daniel Bryan will make an appearance at All Out, then have his first big match at the stadium show. And, of course, everybody's looking forward to it. Everybody, somewhere along the line, we're going to get Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. And I know we've already had it in WWE, but this is a different atmosphere, different environment, so it's going to be huge. But I think he's all but locked in. I think everybody knows that, just like the CM Punk situation. And it's just a matter of when. And I think that's going to be at All Out. I don't know in what kind of capacity. Something similar to like CM Punk maybe. And if that's the case, then they'll probably hint at it maybe a week before, just like they did with Christian Cage. Maybe a situation like that I would anticipate. But I think he'll debut on the pay-per-view and then have his first big match at the stadium show, I believe.
Did you think that was always the plan? Because obviously it was rumored that he would debut at Arthur Ashe in New York. But obviously in recent days, like you said, it's now looking like it's going to be an All Out. And I can't help but think maybe that the Arthur Ashe... I've got a few theories about the whole Arthur Ashe thing. I know apparently there's never been a wrestling match or card there before, ever. So this is like the first company to come and do that there. I was thinking possibly is that logistic errors. Obviously, I'm not in the US. I've been hearing about things like your COVID restrictions in maybe the New York area. I didn't know if that particular show was even going to go ahead in that stadium because of maybe things like that. And I thought maybe plans were changing with the Daniel Bryan debut because maybe something is going on in New York. They're not actually going to have that show, or maybe logistically, because this is wrestling to this stadium is new. They can't sort something out. I don't know. I just thought it was maybe something to do with the stadium. So did you think that this was always going to be the plan, as opposed to Daniel Bryan ever actually debuting at Arthur Ashe Stadium?
They might have switched gears. They're giving, and I don't know the COVID restrictions now in New York in that area, but I mean, if they're hearing rumblings or AEW's in contact with the government there or what have you, and they're saying, you know what, we're not lock down the restrictions again and have more stricter, so we're not going to be able to have your show, then they'll switch gears. They probably switch gears, and we're going to have Daniel debut at All Out, and they'll move that show somewhere else. But again, it doesn't matter because it's just like with CM Punk. Everybody was like, well, it was in Chicago and this and that and its hometown. And it was like, well, this past Wednesday on Dynamite, the chants were still going. He didn't get as big as pop, but he got a huge pop, right? Yep. And I think you could have done the Chicago show, the Rampage where CM Punk. I think you could have had him debut in Houston or Dallas or
it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have mattered, and he still would have gotten the same reaction. So if some influence there in New York is having him switch gears, and have them all out. That's definitely a possibility. I could see that, but as of now, I don't think they've said anything about as far as canceling the show in an Ash or whatever restrictions. But yeah, I think probably the original plan was to have them debut at the stadium show, but maybe everything with COVID and everything, they're switching gears. But I don't see them having an issue um, having him come out or appear at All Out. And in this case, just to get the pay-per-views buys up, I would just come out and say that he's going to debut at All Out and have it at that. And the numbers go up. And then have his first match. If it's going to be at Arthur Ashe Stadium, have his first match, advertise it. They'll sell that out or come close to whatever. If they're not going to have it there at that stadium, whatever, in the New York area, because they want to try to experiment in the Northeast. Have it somewhere else because they're going to sell that show out too, or come close to it because it's fucking Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Daniels.
Yeah, sorry.
So no, I do like your idea, and I do think that's probably the way that they go. They could, this is the go home show this Wednesday to the pay-per-view. So they can drop a massive hint, very much in the style that Darby Allin dropped the CM Punk one in regards to best in the world. They could drop a massive hint on Wednesday, which makes everyone believe that on Sunday night, 5th of September, when we're watching All Out, Daniel Bryan is going to turn up. And even if it is something light that he does, and then, we see him on Dynamite the following week or in 2 weeks' time or whatever the case is, and they build towards, like you said, the big stadium match at the end of September, that would make sense. It will be a very different way. And I think that's another thing. They have to make this debut feel different than CM Punk's. This can't be, Daniel Bryan coming and opening a big show, because we literally just saw that. There's nothing wrong with doing it again, but we literally just saw that. So the debut has to be a bit different. Like how they done Christian, like you said, that could be a way to do it. But I mean, just what's from at this point, I mean, I'm quite excited to see Daniel Bryan somewhere else. I want to see, some of the moves that WWE wouldn't have allowed him to do because of concussion protocol, because of just stuff they take out of your move set because they think it's too dangerous. We're gonna see, and possibly being able to go and work in New Japan and stuff like that, which is obviously a very big thing in his decision to leave WWE in the first place. Just what are your feelings for Bryan Danielson turning up in AEW?
Well, everybody's just going over like all the dream matches and stuff, and it's just going to be very interesting to see who they pair him up against. I think the CM Punk and the Darby Allin deal, that was very interesting. I couldn't have pictured them giving him Darby right off the bat. It's not a bad thing. It's a good matchup. It's going to be a very interesting kind of a contrast in styles, but it's going to be interesting to watch. So you can go through all the dream matches with CM Punk and Kenny Omega and so on and so on. I'm just trying to think about it yesterday about Matt, who would they pit up him against first? Who would be a good matchup? I was going to think. Well, at first, initially, I was going to think maybe Pac, but now Pac's got something going on with Andrade. I don't know how long that would continue, but I think Pac would be a great initial setup just to get the ball rolling with them. That definitely would be a good, interesting matchup because Pac's very fundamentally sound, mat wrestler, and then he does the high flying gimmick stuff. But I mean, he's very technically sound all around, and would be a good matchup for Daniel Bryan. So I think that would be good. I think it would be good for Andrade to pit him up against Bryan Danielson, because Andrade hasn't been setting the world on fire.
That's true.
In the AEW. So I think that would be a good matchup for him to bring out maybe what he can do. So maybe either one of the guys, or it could be somebody totally different. Who knows? But you put Daniel Bryan up against anybody, and he's going to make him look good. It's going to be a good match.
Yeah, 100%. And just on Andrade, as you mentioned him, I don't think it's make or break. It's too early to be make or break. But this match he's got against Pac at All Out, it has to be the kickstart of his AEW career, because I've liked, obviously him coming in was fun, but I didn't like his initial pairing with Vicky Guerrero. The pairing with Chavo Guerrero is better. It's better than Vicky, but it has been somewhat slow. Even now, it looks like the Lucha Brothers have moved away. They've gone to chase the tag team gold. So he needs a real kickstart, and maybe a win on the weekend against Pac, and then going into a program with Daniel Bryan could be something special. So
Oh
yeah, some good names mentioned there. Um, let's switch gears. Let's talk about, this logo. This logo that's been doing the rounds the internet.
yeah.
So I think it was on Friday night before SmackDown aired. I saw Wale, he must have put out this new logo with it was like it was a video of some sort where the NXT logo was in it, and it said coming soon. Um and since then, literally, the internet has been like, what is this? I've seen maybe about 10% of people like it or be intrigued in it. 90% is like, what is this? This looks like Nickelodeon. It looks like the Disney Channel. All sorts of jokes in regards to a kids channel in terms of what it looks like. People, even from a design background, people that work in design are saying it looks very flat. There's no dimension to the logo. Like, what's your initial thoughts, Ignacio, when you saw that?
Well, I put it up there with not the old, the last WCW logo. Looked like the back of a cat's ass. It ranks up there with that. It just goes to show you what they think of NXT now, and I think people, it's gone unfavorably with fans, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't like it, but
Yeah.
would you agree or disagree?
As in, people don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the majority of people don't like it. Loads of people hate it.
I think people are missing the big picture, though, right? So a lot of people criticize AEW about signing talent directly from WWE as soon as they're released, 90 days, whatever. They're saying they're mimicking what WCW did back in the day.
Yeah.
And I won't go too granular, whatever. Into everybody knows Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hogan, Savage, or whatever during that era, that they were just signing talent away from the WWFE, and building their roster. And number one, for me, there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, here in the States, in the NFL, the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, left the Patriots, went to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Who the fuck wouldn't sign the greatest quarterback of all time to their team? It's the same
makes
thing
sense.
in sports.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, it's what I'm trying to get at is WWE's doing something even more catastrophic than WCW did back then, or the same thing actually is back in the day where the NWA or WCW started to sink was when they started bringing non-wrestling people into the industry and giving them high-level positions. Enter Nick Khan, right? Nick Khan, there's been nobody in media, TV, what have you, podcast, radio, whatever, that has been more vocal about the inner workings of WWE, not named McMahon, than Nick Khan. We've heard more from Nick Khan than any other WWE executive in most recent months than any other executive ever, right? And it's no secret that Vince McMahon has given him, more leeway to make decisions, not only in finance, because he's supposed to be the CFO, the financial officer, but as far as releasing superstars, talent, developmental. So he's obviously giving him a little nudge. He's a spokesperson for WWE. He's coming out with all these major announcements. So he's moving the needle for WWE, and they put this. He's basically a marketing and branding executive. That's what he was at CEA, where he came from. He was a branding and marketing company. So NXT comes out with the new logo, whatever. He's got to have his hands on that, and I wouldn't be surprised, right? But Vince McMahon wouldn't allow a wrestling person to manage his company. It wouldn't matter if it was his son-in-law or his son or his daughter. He's not going to have a wrestling person run his company. Back when WCW did it, of course, Jim Herd came in, a non-wrestling person. That's when they started to go down.
Yeah.
They brought Bill Watts in, and I think the issue with Bill Watts was he lost he lost touch with the athlete or the wrestler of that time. He had been out of the business for a while already. He sold to Crockett, whatever, and he lost touch with the way the wrestling business was run, because now the wrestlers had agents. They had Barry Bloom, a non-wrestling person, telling wrestlers what they should get paid, guaranteed contracts, and all that stuff. So enter Eric Bischoff, who at his core, Eric Bischoff is not a wrestling person.
Non-wrestling.
He had two good ideas. The cruiserweights and the NWO, and that was not going to sustain WCW in the long run. He is not a wrestling person. Nick Khan is not a wrestling person. He's making wrestling decisions with NXT, with the main roster, with developmental, with talent. So I think that if they're not careful on who they let make these decisions, and they continue to let Nick Khan make these decisions, a non-wrestling person, it could remain catastrophic, or could be catastrophic for WWE. They have to be very careful, because they're the ones that might end up like WCW.
You raised good points, man. You raised some good points. And, in terms of the direction, we've obviously heard that WWE have come out and said they're no longer in the market for, indie talents. That's for...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I forgot to bring that
No
up.
problem. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
There's no longer in the market for indie talents. They're gonna basically they basically said, in not so many words, we're leaving that to AEW. And we're now going to, they're going back to a previous model of signing, the ex guys from NFL and basketball players and athletes of, professional status and stuff like that, and molding people into the wrestlers they want, basically from a very kind of, grassroots stage. So, it begs the question of what's the NXT we know as of today. What's that going to look like? I know right now, this last week, I think this week's show as well, both been taped previously. But once it gets live and, the CWC, that's going to change. We've already seen the logos changed. When all of these kick into effect, what is the product we're going to be watching? What's that going to look like? And, of course, it sounds like you want to give your opinion on the whole recruitment change. So what were you thinking about that?
Well, just kind of the same thing. That's like saying, and again, it was Nick Khan who made that announcement that I saw. That's like saying here in the States, in the NFL, the National Football League, that's like the Cowboys in the Texas saying, we're not going to be a part of the NFL draft anymore. We're going to have Joe Blow, whatever, from Applebee's or Kroger's or whatever, whatever. What's their application process going to be like? It's going to be like, just like how you mentioned, because I go to a lot of indie shows. I've been to a lot of indie shows. I've met guys that they've wrestled on AEW and WWE, what have you. And I've talked to them and they said, we've been to the Performance Center. They just prefer guys that ex-NFL, ex-MMA, ex-TV star, whatever. They'd rather take a look at them. Jeff Cobb, I think mentioned that somewhere, that at one point he went to the Performance Center. I think it was the Performance Center, and they said wrestlers on this side, indie guys on this side, or something or other, or wrestlers on this side, professional athletes on this side, something or whatever. And he was an Olympian, and they put him with the non-wrestling people or what have you. It's like, I'm a legitimate shooter. I'm a Olympic athlete, whatever. So yeah, it's just going to lead to, how can you not recruit from not within, but within your injury? I get it. Guys pick up bad habits in the indies. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The mud show crap, whatever. But I mean, not everybody. I mean, a lot of indie talent. We've seen a lot of indie talent on television. That goes without saying. You know what I mean? But to say that you're only going to get ex-athletes, not non-wrestlers, to work the WWE style, because everybody knows that WWE has their own style, right? Cater to the cameras, what have you. I don't know. I don't know if it's to say it's much ado about nothing, that they're not gonna follow through on that statement. They very well could, and if they do it could be, again, catastrophic for them, because indie wrestling is the lifeblood of professional wrestling, the lifeblood of the big companies.
And that is exactly where I was going with this before we move on. I think that is the most obvious thing that says, we're not into professional wrestling. We're
Yeah.
into sports entertainment. These indie guys or even the indie darlings, if they want to go to a professional wrestling company, cool. AEW's there, they can go. And we want to build sports entertainers. And we can't, maybe they've struggled in the past to turn the indie guy into sports entertainment. So if we start from scratch with people that are just, physically capable, we can teach them the rest. And yeah, like I said, it's the biggest thing that kind of taps them out from being within the pro wrestling market. They're not interested in
Yeah.
pro wrestling; they're interested in sports entertainment. And I just think again, I think it's pretty sad for the indie wrestlers that have grown up and that's where they've wanted to reach for whatever reason. WWE's all I've watched. WWE's where I want to get to. I want to get to the main event of WrestleMania. Well, all of a sudden that road has been blocked. That's it looks like that is not a it's not going to happen
Yeah.
unless you are such a big buzz on the indies and you come straight into Monday Night Raw or something like that, pretty much
Yeah.
like how AJ Styles did. That's the only kind of indie wrestler or indie wrestling
Yes.
ability it's gonna have to be to get straight into WWE now, because with this new model it doesn't seem like the whole development of this, developing the indie wrestlers and then making them better than getting them to main roster, it looks like it's over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna
It
be
looks like
bad.
it's
It's
done.
just it's not good. It's not good. It's not good for the guys that want to break into the business because like I said, most of them like they put WWE up here on the pedestal, which was for a long time. Remember, for a long time, WWE was the biggest show on earth.
Yeah, that was the case. Yeah.
Since the collapse of WCW, now we got AEW, but they can only hire so many people. They can only, you know what I mean. They can't hire everybody.
Yeah.
They're gonna end up getting rid of some people too.
Mm-hmm.
Japan is Japan. They're only gonna acquire so much talent, foreign talent. You know, Mexico's Mexico. You know what I'm saying? There's not gonna be enough to go around if WWE totally decides to shut the doors on those people.
Yeah. So someone was even saying during the week that Vince McMahon has probably forgotten that he has NXT UK, because if he remembers he has NXT UK, he probably just closes it down altogether.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny. I'll just mention this real. Okay. NXT UK is amazing. I don't watch it all the time, admittedly, but I mean, when I can catch it, I'll catch it. But god dang, they have the most out of their whole company. They have the most legitimate championship out of their whole company, the NXT UK title.
Yep.
What
Yep.
everybody says, and for those of you who say comments I've read on Instagram or whatever, for those of you who say that we trash WWE and don't say anything about AEW, AEW's been saying they have the most protected title in all of wrestling. That's totally false. It's not even the IWGP title. It's the NXT UK title, because they've only had 4 champions in 4 years?
Something like that.
And the last champion had it for 2 years. Over 2.5 years.
And even the champions that came before him, they were really champions. Like they did everything performance-wise.
Tyler Bate. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you're right. It's definitely credible championship, and I cross my fingers and hope for NXT, because maybe not just myself, a lot of us, this has been our favorite product from WWE for years. And with these drastic changes that they're talking of, nothing positive looks like it's going to come out of it at this stage. Let's hope, that, ideally it looks like they want to get back to the days of building a class full of John Cena, Batista, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar. How possible that is these days, I guess it's just down to your intake and what you can teach them. But at the same time, you need stars on the main roster to legitimize those guys. There's, Randy Orton and Batista are nothing without Evolution. And, Brock Lesnar paved his own way just because of his whole size, his whole demeanor and everything. John Cena had a very long road to get to, the top and stay there. And it was down to the men that he worked with. And, so.
But yeah, because you had Kurt Angle and Rock and those guys. to build those guys.
Yeah,
They don't have
exactly.
any. They don't
They
have
don't have
guys at
those
that
guys.
level right. So
Exactly. They
it's a
don't have
wash.
those guys. If we're looking at guys they have of that ilk, it may just be about 2 or 3. And I'm counting Lesnar, and Lesnar's part-time.
Yeah.
And is Lesnar gonna stick around to wait for these NXT people to be ready to get to that level? Probably not. So
If they
yeah.
write another check, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Our last main topic of the day before we get onto our highlights of the week. It has been heavily rumored, heavily reported that Braun Strowman and Buddy Murphy, who's now going to go by the name of Buddy Matthews, it seems, are Impact bound. Buddy Murphy, at least, was someone that was being particularly tied to AEW. He was doing these online kind of vignettes, which were tying into like a story that Aleister Black was telling as well through online video before he made his AEW debut as Malachi Black. Really good stuff. I like seeing these kind of online videos that the wrestlers are doing something to still tell their story before they get signed. We're seeing Ruby Soho's doing something similar right now. But yeah, it looks like from what they're saying, he's bound to turn up on Impact any Thursday from now. And Braun Strowman, I can't remember, is it Slammiversary that they've got coming up?
I
It's
think it's Bound for
Bound for
Glory.
Glory. Sorry, Bound for Glory. Yeah,
Braun for
Bound.
Glory.
they they've got that coming up, and I think that's where they've rumored he will debut. So, again, Ignacio, initial thoughts on Buddy Murphy and Braun Strowman going to Impact?
Well, I like Murphy. He's good. He's a great talent, and I think where I really started paying it because I didn't watch 205 Live because I thought it was bullshit. But I mean,
You did. I think when Murphy was there, when Pac was there, and I think when Cedric was champion as well, that rivaled, like, that was as good as, like, okay, nearly as good as NXT. That was honestly like the second best WWE product at that period. Those like 2 years.
The only 205 I really watched was Austin Aries when he wrestled Pac
when he was there.
Title there at WrestleMania. Other than that, where I really saw Murphy is when Paul Heyman took over Raw. He had a stint of matches with Aleister Black or Malachi Black. I mean, they wrestled like 6 weeks in a row or something like that. And they got familiar with each other. And they were all good matches. A lot of people have tried to have seen it. I did it because they were good matches because they're both great talents. And as far as him going to Impact, I don't know if AEW really tried to reach out to him or not. I'm assuming he signed with Impact with the intention that eventually we're going to see him on AEW TV since they have a relationship together. And I would imagine that he would want to venture out to Japan. But I'm just kind of surprised that with all the money that Tony Khan's throwing around, that they just didn't try to nab him full-time with them. I don't know. Impact's much ado about nothing. If they're not on a major network, get on a major network and let's see what you can do. They get and a lot of it kind of goes back to where with AEW they have Kenny Omega on there. I think they had their one episode where Kenny Omega showed up. I think they had their lowest rated show ever.
Really?
60-something thousand fans or something. I mean, it could be maybe because they're not on a major network, but I've seen the product. It's just, it's bland. You'll have a good match here and there. I love Moose. Why Moose decided to stay there? I think I remember hearing that NXT or WWE reached out to him for NXT. He could have been good there. AEW maybe, I don't know, but I mean, he decided to stay. I just think, man, Impact's just so much ado about nothing and bland and irrelevant, just like the NWA is. And Braun Strowman, glad I'm not going to see him in AEW. AEW probably said, fuck this guy because that he made some disparaging comments about independent wrestlers and stuff like that during the pandemic. Well, now he's being fucking humbled because I think when he got released by WWE and his 90-day deal came up or whatever, his non-compete, I think he tried to book himself for $25,000 for indie shows. Who the fuck does he think he is?
He said something along the lines of, I don't need to work. I don't need the money or whatever the case is. So if you do want me, this is the price.
Well, look, I don't know. Nobody can speak to spending habits or what have you or anything, whatever. If he saved his money, great, good for him. But what is he gonna do? Is he gonna open a couple of gyms or whatever? Or fuck? I mean, without wrestling, he's nothing right now. I don't know if he has other businesses on the side or he like every other person decided to get their fucking real estate license or whatever. But I mean, I just don't really care about Braun Strowman. I don't care about to see him in Impact. I think him making those comments is very fucking disappointing. I was one of his backers when they were booking him like shit in WWE because for a while there he had some momentum, he had some fandom, he had some steam behind him, and then they started booking him like shit, and then he made those comments, and it's like, dude, you need to be fucking humbled. And if he's going to fucking Impact, that's probably the only people that are offering him a fucking contract right now, and he's lucky to have it.
I mean, with both of these guys, I'll start with Buddy Murphy. I think, yes, for me, someone that doesn't watch much of Impact, trying to these days, but yeah, I think it is disappointing. However, I do think it's a good place for him because I think it's somewhere he could shine easily. Now, that may be, it's like a two-sided coin. He's not challenging himself, or he can go there, build a reputation, and then get a big move elsewhere. I think he could climb the card in Impact very quickly, very, very quickly, like, be Impact champion. But they probably wouldn't want to do that. Don't want to put the belt on a WWE guy and all that kind of stuff. But there's some great talents there where he can have some great matches with. And, yes, he'll probably be allowed to venture out New Japan, like you said, AEW, Forbidden Door, all of that stuff. So, yeah, I think if Murphy does turn up in Impact, he just should definitely have the mindset as this is a stepping stone. Like, I need to get back to some height, whether that's WWE or AEW. I need to get back to mainstream television, like you're saying, and I'm using this place as a stepping stone to go because he's got a platform because his talent is immense. His talent is honestly immense. As for Strowman, I always believe from the minute that he left WWE, he's got a few options. One, go to Hollywood, just be like a big man in all these films, just be a Hollywood kind of guy. Or two, wait until the day that WWE call you back and give you a lower contract, because ultimately that's why he lost his job, because of the size of his contract. Give you a lower contract and you come back in. I never really believed he would turn up wrestling elsewhere. Again, I think Impact might be an okay place for him. I could only compare him to, Kaz XL or W Morrissey, as he's calling himself now, has kind of been, he's gone to Impact, being a big man. He's looked all right, where I've kind of checked into Impact. Nothing amazing's happened. He's not like captured any titles or anything like that, but he's someone that looks a bit different to everyone else that's on Impact, and I think that's a possible hole Braun Strowman could fill as well if Braun Strowman is to turn up at Impact. But like yourself, I can't really say I care much for Braun Strowman or where he's going to turn up. I think he's destined to just wait until WWE call him back and he goes back to WWE. Even him turning up at Impact, Bound to Glory or whatever, it might just be a one and done. It might not be an actual, whole deal or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I don't. Especially what's going on. I thought that they got rid of Braun because they had Almost coming up. They paired him with AJ, and he's a disaster in the ring. He's green.
Who Almost? You don't?
Huh?
I mean, Almost. Are you talking about Almost is green?
He's green as dog shit or whatever. However you want to see it. He's fucking. He's baby shit, whatever. But I mean,
he's learning. I don't think he's that bad, to be honest.
He's fucking terrible.
You think so? I don't think he's that bad. I think he's okay. I think he's new, but he's learning.
God, are we paying people to learn on the job now? Fuck. I mean, I guess whatever. But and then they got the other guy. He was with Baba Tunda, and now he's General or what?
Commander Aziz.
Fuck, he dresses like a Civil War bellhop or something. It's like, God, I think these guys, they're gonna realize these guys are epic fails. They're gonna try to bring Braun back. I think that's all that's gonna happen. So I think Impact. I'm not. He might spend a little bit of time at Impact, but he's not gonna move the needle there. He's not gonna make an
Yeah,
impact on Impact.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean,
I think I think Braun was literally let go because of the money. I
yeah,
don't think they have any heat with him. I don't think there's anything wrong there. I literally think, this is someone that we are paying over $1 million or $1 million per year. We want to try and clean up the books. He's not a top guy here. Like, let's be completely honest. He's held the belt a couple of times in the last year, but even then, he wasn't a top guy for us.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's get rid of him. We don't have anything for him at the time, and maybe in a couple years' time or so, we bring him back on a smaller contract, and then he can fulfill that role of being an upper mid carder, big monster, without the big paycheck to go along
Yeah.
with it. And yeah, I literally think that's what it is. So, I mean, we'll wait and see in the next week to see if these guys turn up on Impact or whatever, or like promised. But yeah, not much interest in Braun Strowman going forward right now, personally. But Buddy Murphy, like I say, use this as a platform, use it as a stepping stone to get back to the big time because he's more than capable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right, before we get out of here today, we're gonna round up the show with our highlights of the week. This is a feature at the end of the show where we talk about anything that we particularly liked in the world of sports entertainment stroke pro wrestling in the past week. So Ignacio, do you have yours? You want to go first this week?
Well, it's a highlight for me, and it's not exactly positive. It's negative also.
Okay.
Fuck, we're gonna get MJF and Chris fucking Jericho again. And the only reason why I'm saying this is a highlight is we might not see fucking Chris Jericho wrestle again, because everybody knows in Wrestling Republic, and they've read my articles or know how I feel about Chris fucking Jericho. He's been plaguing the fucking TV on Wednesday nights and now Friday nights ever since he's lost the AEW title. He's bringing a definitive and new meaning to the fucking word suck. Everything sucks. He sucks. His program sucks. I'm tired of the fucking orange juice matches and the fucking football field fuckery matches. And I'm tired of the fucking dance fucking recitals. And I'm tired. He's done nothing productive for that fucking company in the past year, especially. He's brought down fucking MJF. He's brought down with him Sammy fucking Guevara and the FTR and anybody he's ever been fucking involved with in the past year. He's Dusty Rhodes of the late 80s. Dusty Rhodes in the late 80s, booked for Crockett, latched on and leashed on to everybody he could to stay relevant. Sting, Road Warriors, Magnum TA. Every time somebody gets some fucking buzz, Jericho's right there. FTR, Sammy Guevara, MJF, Stone
Nick
Cold's fucking
Gage.
podcast. God damn. I mean, fuck, I'm tired of it. His song sucks. His band sucks. I don't hate him personally. I don't hate him personally. I hate him in the wrestling business. All right.
Yeah.
I hate him in the wrestling business. So the highlight for me is come all out. I'm hoping. And you know what? This whole fucking feud for the past year's been a disaster with MJF. Everything. The whole year. If it doesn't come out to at the end, Jericho retiring and not wrestling again, it would have been definitely all been for fucking nothing. And MJF just wasted a fucking critical year of his fucking career. So I'm going to be glad to see him fucking go.
Wow.
That's my highlight.
So yeah, where you're in the middle of going off at Jericho, and the boss man walks in. Ben, I come home and enter the stream, and I hear Ignacio rant. You have to love it. It's right. Let me say this: I'm a Jericho fan. Love Jericho, even with people.
I was too.
When he's on commentary on Rampage, and people are like, oh, he's just shouting down the microphone because it's Jericho. I get it and I like it, but I understand how he can be, pissing people off. I've become tired in the last maybe a few years of Jericho matches. I think things he does in between is entertaining. I think he makes himself relevant, like you said, by latching onto the guys that are top of the industry. But I see that as a smart move to kind of extend his career, sort of thing. We saw him go to Japan, the Omega stuff, the stuff he done with what's his face? His name escapes me now. What's the LIJ guy called?
The NATO?
Naito, yeah. It was the stuff we saw him do with him, and then obviously coming with AEW. The most recent latch on, like you're saying, is I think was with Nick Gage doing the death
Oh,
match,
fuck.
like
God, that
literally,
was
like.
terrible.
So I completely hear everything you're saying, but I'm still very much a fan of Jericho. But yeah, the MJF Jericho stuff I haven't really liked. I don't want to see this match again. I didn't want to see it the first time. But here we are. So in a forward backwards way, your highlight of the week is possibly not seeing Chris Jericho ever again.
Ever in a ring again, because they're gonna have him somewhere. They're gonna have him on They're gonna have him on commentary. He's still gonna have some input on fucking creative. I know he is, and I don't know. You know what confuses me is why this guy isn't in WWE fucking working for Vince McMahon's creative. Gets the same hokey bullshit that's on fucking WWE. I don't know why Vince McMahon doesn't have this guy over there. They can take him. Have him. Fuck. Damn it.
No, well, yeah. I mean, I guess.
I need an ice cream bar. Fuck.
All right, let me go. Whilst you calm down, I'll give you my highlight of the week. And my highlight of the week is just as a whole, SmackDown. I thought SmackDown was a pretty decent show this past week. It felt like a show after a big pay-per-view. Obviously, we had SummerSlam days before it, and then we got SmackDown, and we saw the return of Becky, but then in that segment we saw Liv Morgan get thrown in to the women's title, and Liv Morgan's been around. She was featured all the way up to Money in the Bank. We haven't seen her since Money in the Bank, so that was someone new they threw in. Naomi returned to TV. We saw her get thrown in. We saw Sami Zayn get thrown in against Dominic Mysterio. Finn Balor returned after kind of being kicked out of the Universal title scene. Everything they're doing, they've now kind of really packaged the bloodline together with their whole entrance together, their new t-shirt, the story going on with Paul Heyman, and is Paul Heyman kind of going to betray Roman over Brock Lesnar. I just felt like, generally it was just a well knit together show. It felt new because we saw faces we haven't seen in a while. It felt fresh, and it felt like, there's a bit of a new direction, even with the change of character of Happy Corbin has finally arrived. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite thing on the show, but like I said, these are all kind of contributing factors that just made the show feel different for me. So yeah, I think it was a good show all in all.
It was a solid show. Look, Finn Balor coming back is always good, but fuck, they had the job guy fucking Happy Corbin can his ass, and now he's back on TV. He hasn't been on TV in 3 weeks. God damn. Well, he's going to be somebody for Reigns to take on until the Saudi show or when Lesnar comes around. But god damn, man. I mean, they can do so much with Finn Balor, making him a legitimate main eventer contender. So forth. But Vince McMahon doesn't see it, so that's not going to happen. But yeah,
it's a
kind
shame.
of a breath of fresh air to see him. You mentioned Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
She's growing on me. She's starting to become she's becoming a good worker. I like her, but goddamn, I mean, you got people didn't want to boo Becky Lynch at the beginning of the show. They just
What did we say last week? They
didn't want to boo her. They're not going to boo her, and then they're trying to bring up Bianca Belair. I think it's a wash. I think it's just gotta wait till the draft comes around to see who they're gonna move in there and move out of there. But it was just such a bad way to debut Becky Lynch.
What they needed to do, obviously, Becky Lynch left. They had the fatal 4-way elimination match. When Bianca was maybe just about to pin Liv Morgan, they needed to send Becky Lynch back in there and break it up and beat up Bianca just to try and get more heat on her. You see what I mean? The only time they booed Becky Lynch is when she said, I've got the title now or something like that during her promo. And it's like, everyone's happy to see her. And it's like, yeah, we love to see you, Becky. Great to see you back. But we don't like how you beat Bianca. But then beating Bianca is like the secondary thing here. Everyone is still in awe of seeing Becky Lynch back. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about Becky Lynch and stuff in the coming weeks. It looks like her and Bianca Belair. I think the arena's already confirmed Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch is happening at Extreme Rules. So, Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. Ben says here in the chat that apparently WWE won't fans want fans to turn on her slowly. They aren't expecting an instant turn. Yeah, so like I said, in the
Well,
next couple of weeks, it'll be kind of telling.
I mean, they tried to do the same. I'm not saying she's at the same level, but they tried to do the same thing with Austin. And no matter what they did, the fans would never boo Austin. They wanted more. They wanted more Austin. It's the same thing with They're not gonna boo. They're not gonna boo Becky Lynch. They don't. They. She's the baby face of the company.
Yeah.
She's the main baby face of the company. They're not gonna boo their fucking hero. Who wants to? I mean, damn. I mean, I don't know. Why did they put it on fucking Raw for against Charlotte? She would have been she would have been the perfect baby face there. They would have been glad to see her. Charlotte's the ultimate fucking heel. That would have been a great program. And at the same time, they could have been building their next great baby face and Bianca Belair on the other show. Don't any of these people watch fucking wrestling?
They're not making wrestling, Ignacio. That's the whole point. They're making sports entertainment. And I'm guessing Becky's on SmackDown because obviously Seth is on SmackDown. Maybe they move across. Maybe they move across together in the draft or something. Who knows? But like I said, in the next couple of weeks, as we get closer to Extreme Rules, we'll probably be doing a lot more talk about Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, and where that is heading. But we have to get out of here, guys. It's been a really stacked show. Like I said, it's all about new beginnings, and a lot of things are changing in the landscape of wrestling, including the shift of power of these companies. It's going to be very interesting to see by the time Daniel Bryan, debuts, especially as Bryan Danielson, how that's going to look. But thanks everyone for joining today's show. Please remember to smash the like button on your way out and subscribe to Wrestling Republic on YouTube. Ignacio, any last words before we close off today?
Waiting for another big week of wrestling, and I'll definitely be back to rant about it. Hit the like button, though.
Yeah, that's it. Hit the like button for more rants. All right, guys. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll be here same time next week. Until then, take care.